we're going to be talking about some of the drastic changes coming to cruise and, more importantly, whether or not they will actually work. Well, ahoy there, cruisers!
We're Cruise with Ben and David.
So first, let's talk about social distancing. Obviously, as you know, this is the biggest thing landside which has been used to stop the spread of COVID-19. But will this work on a cruise? Well, we don't think so, and here's why. Cruise ships are quite big on the outside and hold a lot of people, but inside there's lots of small areas. There's just so many areas where it's going to be almost impossible or very difficult to socially distance. The main area of concern for us are the cabin corridors, so obviously the entrances to your cabin. It's going to be almost physically impossible to social distance in this very small space. First of all, there's going to need to be some kind of one-way system to stop traffic from meeting each other. But the problem is, what about the crew? What about when they're cleaning in the corridors and cleaning the rooms? How are you going to get around them? You know, when going back to your cabin, there are so many crew in the hallways and you say hi and walk past them and things, but how is this going to happen whilst maintaining social distancing? How are you going to get around them? The width of the corridors are under 2 meters in many cases, so it's going to be a big problem. Then there's other problems when it comes to bars, nightclubs, general eating. Just going to the bar and ordering a drink and then touching the surface and then somebody coming along in a minute and touching the same service. COVID can spread that way as well. It's not just social distancing. And many of these areas are really small. You've got dancing, parties, silent discos, big themed parties in the atriums and things like that. How are they going to happen? Even using the pools, and especially kids. What about the kids clubs? You can have less kids in there, but how can we expect kids to socially distance? Are you meant to have them on a lead or something? Because otherwise it's going to be super difficult. Absolutely, it can work in restaurants and theatres as well as outside areas and bigger areas. But what about at the end of shows when everybody wants to get out and go for dinner or go to bed? There's going to be a big rush of traffic. How is this going to be handled? Are you going to be waiting around for ages to get out of the show? We just don't know. And if there are less people on board, maybe 50% capacity or so, does this mean that the prices are going to go up? How are the cruise lines going to survive only having 50% capacity? We can't see personally the prices going up, can we?
Of course, it's not just passengers that are going to need to social distance. There's also the crew on board as well. The crew are sharing quarters, they're sharing bathrooms and eating areas. And generally the crew spaces are a lot smaller than the public spaces. We know this for certain because we've had tours of cruise ships, we've seen the crew cabins and they're a lot smaller than the public areas. How are the crew going to social distance? While they're at work as well, how are they going to social distance at work when they're in the galleys? Galleys are really packed, they're hectic, there's a lot of people in there and they're going to be close together. So it's going to be even harder for the crew to social distance. If they are working in isolation, imagine how lonely it's going to be for them and how that's going to affect the crew's mental health. They're not going to be able to be close to anybody on board. It's almost going to be impossible for the crew to social distance, we think. And
one of the best things about cruise vacations are the crew themselves. So not being able to get close to the crew, 2 meters is quite a big distance. So it's going to be really strange not being able to interact with the crew.
This isn't just a problem for crews though. I mean, think of your local bar, your local restaurant. When you have a look at your local bar, they are so close together, all the staff.
Absolutely. It's for all forms of transportation and all venues really are going to be affected the same way. How is social distancing going to work in regular life when you're going to the theatre, to the cinema, restaurants, getting on aircraft and planes, just checking in through airports and busy airports? It really affects all forms of transport.
And thinking about checking in, you mentioned there, what about checking in for your cruise and boarding? To social distance is going to take a lot longer. And so while you're social distancing on boarding, it's going to be taking a lot longer to get on board. And we also know that ships only have a limited amount of time in port to embark and disembark passengers.
And most of all, do you want to have social distancing whilst on vacation? Are you going to be worrying about being too close to someone, always watching where you are? For us, this isn't something we probably want to do.
Yeah, I mean, vacation is a time to get away and not think about the real world and to relax. do you really want to be constantly thinking about social distancing and keeping your distance and all the thoughts and things behind that while you're on vacation?
And it's obviously been talked about masks and things, the crew being in masks, but that's going to be really strange. If you've got to wear a mask yourself, it's going to be very difficult on vacation. And obviously you're going to get the tan lines on your face.
Well, yeah, think if you talk about tan lines, imagine if you're in the Caribbean, it's going to be hot, it's going to be sweaty, how are you going to eat, how are you going to drink? That's not a relaxing thing.
It's not viable.
And again, not just cruise, this is any sort of vacation as well. I don't want to be wearing a mask while I'm on my vacation.
So next up are some of the things that we do think will work. First up is the buffet. From what we've heard so far, this is basically going to be gone, especially at the beginning when cruising resumes. The president and CEO of Royal Caribbean admitted it was one of the areas they were definitely looking at. He said social distancing in a buffet would be a nightmare. And obviously touching tongs and sharing condiments and things like that we don't think is very ideal. He also said at the beginning there will not be a buffet. Remember, he said I think, so things could definitely change. He said the Windjammer, which is the buffet on Royal Caribbean ships, is probably that it would be something more akin to a restaurant, especially at the beginning. So honestly, we have seen so many questionable things happen in buffets anyway. People using their hands, putting things back after they've touched it. Is it time to go the way of Holland America? They still have the same buffet setup, but everything is behind glass covers, and you ask the crew what you would like, and then they serve it to you. This is just so much more hygienic, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually like that idea, regardless of what's going on in the world at the moment. I think that's a much nicer way to do the buffet on board, and I'd like to see more ships go down that route.
Absolutely, it's still the same thing, but it's so much cleaner.
While boarding the ship, this is one of the most important times for the cruise because they want to make sure that everybody getting on board is safe and healthy to do so. We already know there's going to be more stringent health screenings, such as temperature checks, and the questionnaires are coming back that most cruise lines did get rid of recently. They're now coming back to check if you are healthy. We also know from Princess Cruises that if you do lie on your questionnaire and you are unwell, you will be removed from the ship.
And there's legal implications as well, so you have to be very, very truthful. It's very important, especially for the health of yourself and those on board.
But they're going to have to be doing temperature checks and screenings, not just at the embarkation port, but at every port as well, as people are coming to and from the ship. And they're going to have to be regularly screening crew to make sure that everybody on the ship is safe and healthy.
So cleaning is also a big thing. Anybody who's cruised before knows how clean cruise ships are. There's been lots of things out in the media that are just blatantly untrue. They are not floating petri dishes. This virus can be and has been caught everywhere. It needs to be super clear that cruise ships are very, very clean. They're some of the cleanest places on Earth and they have very strict regulations, but there's going to be more cleaning in place, especially in high traffic areas. Big washdowns after each cruise. It really puts into question, should there be more time between disembarking and embarking? So maybe a 24-hour period or 12-hour period from where the people get off, the ship's thoroughly washed down, and then new people get on. But obviously this has a big cost implied for the cruise line.
Yeah, it costs a lot of money for cruises to be docked, so that adds a lot of extra cost onto the price of a cruise. So what do you think could work? This is just our opinion, what we think will and won't work. We want to know what you think. Let us know in the comments section below if you think social distancing and all these other measures are going to work on a cruise.
And we've been bringing you all of the latest news before anybody else. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to support us, and most importantly, hit the bell button. This way, you'll never miss out one of our videos. And once we get back to cruising, we've got so much good content coming, so don't miss out. And thank you so much to all of our patrons as well. You can find out more information about becoming a patron in the description section below. And thanks to our captain this week, it's Brian. So ahoy
there, Brian. So guys, that's it for this time. Hope you have a safe and healthy week. Until next time, happy cruising!